Hey guys, it's Hunter. Welcome back to another video. I think it's about that time of year again, the 2022 Gear Collection Tour. A lot of changes in the guitars and the amps from last year. Let's take a closer look. So, this being a gear channel on YouTube, there's a lot of cool stuff we get to check out together. There are also a lot of questions. What's actually mine? What's on loan for review? What have I actually bought and kept? And what are my favorites for playing for fun when I'm not shooting a video? For me, gear and switching between gear can be inspiring. It all feels different, and that helps come up with riff ideas. And I love doing these videos because they kind of act like a gear diary of sorts. It's fun to look back year on year, see what's changed, what's stayed the same. And also these videos act as kind of my reminder that I need to let stuff go. Like if I'm documenting something and I realize, oh, it hasn't gotten that much playing time recently, it probably deserves to go to a better home. So stay tuned to my Reverb. And if you see something on Reverb, you can message me on Instagram about it, save some money. Anyways, a ton has changed this year. Let's get into it. First big change, I'm obviously in a much different studio environment than I've been in for the past 3 years, or even since the channel started. I'm not trying to make do with my bedroom or the living room of a really small city apartment. Shiv and I have bought a place, so I was actually able to take the spare room and turn it into a dedicated studio space. And this is really cool. I've never been able to do things like hang guitars or hang sound treatment on the walls or the ceilings, so I've done just that. I have a whole 5-part studio build vlog series if you want to check it out, turning a normal room into one of the coolest, most badass home offices ever. Basically, I have a Guitar Center at home now. Speaking of badass, though, the sponsor of today's video. I don't know, dude. This is a segue we're going for. Why not? Let's take a quick second to thank the sponsor of today's video, NordVPN. You know, think of all the things you do online. Banking, entering credit card information to buy, well, everything now. The internet is awesome. But you probably don't want anyone stealing that information, and that is where NordVPN comes in. Now, if you're unfamiliar with a VPN, essentially the simplified version is it encrypts and hides your online data from prying eyes. So especially if you're working at a coffee shop, traveling for the holidays, using any of those free hotspots, without a VPN, someone could be monitoring what you're doing. Personally, getting my card information stolen once was enough for me. I don't take any chances with my security. I use NordVPN literally all the time. They have super fast servers all over the world, so with one click, you can hide your information from bad actors and even make it seem like you're in a completely different country. And Nord Security doesn't just stop there. There's malware threat protection. They have an excellent password manager to generate and store passwords. I'm convinced Ibanez also uses it to generate their model names. And they even offer encrypted cloud storage for your most sensitive files. So if you're ready to secure your online data, head on over to nordvpn.com/Agufish because right now they have a special deal. Choose any 2-year plan and get a free bonus month of protection. And they have a 30-day money-back guarantee, so what are you waiting for? That's nordvpn.com/Agufish. Protect your online presence. It really is important. Plus, clicking the link in the description helps out by letting them know that I sent you. And while you're doing that, let's get back to the studio tour. And I know a lot of people just want to get to the amp and guitar collections, timestamps in the description if you want to skip ahead, but I won't spend too long in the room, especially since there is the whole build vlog series. So here's the quick spark notes. For cameras to shoot the videos, I'm using a Sony a7 II for all the B-roll these days. Main camera is a Canon T7i, and B-angle is a Canon T3i. None of these are super high-end compared to what other people are using. I watched Trey from Gear God's studio tour video, and it made me feel very insecure. The T3i doesn't even have tracking autofocus, but they all shoot 1080p, and with a good lens, you can still get some great results out of them. More important for good footage is good lighting, and about a year ago, I went all out and bought an Aperture 120D Mark II. This thing is insane. It's basically the sun in my studio. Completely unnecessary in most cases, but it means if I'm filming at 2 or 3 in the morning, which I do way too much because for some reason I'm super productive at those hours and none others, it means that I'm not needing any natural lighting at all. The sound treatment, bass traps, control columns, scatter panels, it's all prime acoustic. All the guitar racks, wall hangers, it's all string swing. Currently using a Gator Frameworks audio desk, which is really cool because it's the first time I've had dedicated rack spaces for audio gear. For the computer, just bought a Mac Studio, which is awesome. Editing is so quick now. Down here is the 7-year-old Hackintosh I built and had been using for editing. It's now being used as a home server because these videos take up a metric ass load of footage. On the left, Sennheiser wireless unit, Furman power conditioner, which is such an underrated part of any audio setup. KHE amp and cab selector, love this thing. Focusrite Claret 8 Pre audio interface. I thought it would be overkill when I first got it, but I'm actually using almost all of the inputs. Outputs to my studio monitors, I've replaced the KRK Rocket 5s I was using since the start of the channel with Atom Audio T7Vs, which are great and have a much better bass response. And one of the secondary monitor outputs is hooked up to an old Logitech Z2300 8-inch sub, which is THX certified and is so stupidly overpowered. Great when you don't just want to listen to music, but really feel the breakdowns. Right side of the desk is a 2 Notes Torpedo Live, which is a load box and hardware IR loader, and then an absolutely invaluable piece of gear, a 2 Notes Torpedo Reload. This does so much heavy lifting. I use it for DI, for reamping, and as a speaker attenuator for the 2 cabinets in the new and improved Tone Mountain, Georgia, which is a reference to Stone Mountain, Georgia, that basically no one gets if they're from outside the state, but that's okay. Now you know. And this is probably the coolest part of the room. It's absolutely wild. It's basically a giant wall-sized analog Kemper. So starting at the top, Angle Savage 120 Mark II. Probably use this one the most right now. It's a pain in the ass to figure out the controls, but so worth it when you do. It's tight and chonky at the same time. It's crazy. Engel Iron Ball Special Edition, mean little German amp with built-in effects. Under those, not a pedal guy really, but a bunch of pedals I thought looked cool. The Rev G Series collection, Fender Reflecting Pool, EHX Soul Food, Mad Butt Weasel Fuzz, Hughes & Kettner Grandmeister Deluxe 40, another lunchbox-sized tube rig in a box. Really high fidelity sounding. Rev Generator 120 Mark III in all white, super tight, super versatile, monster of a head. Built-in 2 Notes Torpedo to load on your own custom IRs, and the LEDs change color depending on what channel you're on. Hughes & Kettner Triamp Mark III. This is the most ridiculous amp. This was my dream amp for so long. Before I even played it, I loved the way that it lit up. Sometimes I feel like such a moth, dude. This is almost an analog Kemper unto itself. 6 channels that emulates everything from Fender cleans to rectifier high gain, a boost that's custom voiced to each channel, and you can select which of the 3 sets of power tubes are utilized for each channel. It's nuts. Right now it's got 2 sets of 6L6s and 1 set of EL34s. Which you can use individually or combine, but you can put anything in there. It's a stupid powerful piece of gear. And by the way, if you're wondering what these little stickers are, it's a character called Jinbei-san, meaning Mr. Whale Shark, and his friends. It's something a friend put on all the amps I plan on keeping forever. Next to that, Rev G20. This is the first lunchbox head ever to have built-in 2 Notes integration to load on custom IRs for direct recording. Sounds great for the metals too. On the right side of Tone Mountain, radial power conditioner, some other pedals I thought looked cool. Jet City 100 HDM. They don't make these anymore, but Jet City was the first amp company I worked with. They got me into my first NAM. Soldano designed circuit, and it's basically an affordable Hot Rod 100 clone. Broken ISP decimator, foot switches I should hook up, but haven't because all the controls are here anyways, and wire management is already a mess. PV6505 Plus, a classic. This one I picked up off Craigslist for 300 bucks. It still has the original Ruby power tubes in there that I really should replace because it makes this high-pitched whine. Sometimes when I turn it on, it sounds like it might explode, but it hasn't exploded yet. It still sounds great. My super simple pedal board, MXR Isobrick power supply, Rev G8, noise gate, get it, gate, Boss Tuner Digitech Drop Horizon Devices Precision Drive that has a built-in noise gate. And then I don't really run things through the effects loop that much anymore, but when I do, ISP Decimator 2 to destroy preamp hiss, vintage Boss CE2, the Metallica clean chorus sounds, and a Boss Wazacraft DM2 analog delay. My pedal board is basically half noise gates. Life of a modern metal player. The only other pedals I use consistently are under the desk, Mission Engineering Rewa Pro, which is absolutely sick. The wah effect is super customizable with all these internal dip switches, and a Digitech Whammy DT, which I maintain is the most fun pedal to have ever existed. Back to Tone Mountain, Rock Reverb 100 Mark III sounds completely different to anything else I own. Love blending this in for mixes because it's super mid-rangey. It was an orange B stock, been used on tour, so it has beer ring stains on the top, dented front panel, and they gave me a deal on it that I just couldn't refuse. Mesa Boogie Dual Rectifier, another classic. This is the multi-watt version. Metallica is my favorite band of all time, so it was my first dream amp. Didn't know anything about tube amps, but Metallica played Mesas, therefore I wanted one. No, I needed one. Man, I saved up all my summer internship money, bought this suspiciously cheap listing on eBay. I'm talking way under retail price. I was half expecting to be scammed, but this arrived, all the tags on it and everything. The logo is a bit crooked, so maybe it's a B stock or maybe it was stolen. I don't really know, but it sounds great. And I was so happy when it arrived. I carried it in the Georgia summer about a mile to the bus stop to take it home. Didn't feel the heat at all. I was so stoked. For cabs, Mesa 2x12 Recto loaded with V30s. Pretty much the gold standard for 2x12s. Got it at a pawn shop for pretty cheap because, I mean, well, look at it. Mint condition, no low balls. I know what I have. For real though, this thing sounds great and it's kind of a pain in the ass to move. The handle was long gone before I owned it. Sounds great though, the speakers are very broken in. And then the newest addition to Tone Mountain is this Rev 212 loaded with a Celestion V30 paired with a creamback, which complement each other very well. Got it in white to match the generator, and another cool thing, the logo lights up to match the amp, and it changes depending on what channel you're on. How sick is that? It's straight dysentery. Now, all of this is hooked up for direct recording, so I can do it late at night without waking the baby. All the big amps are running into the KHE amp switcher, so I can swap between them, match them with either the cabs or the Torpedo Live on the fly. And all the lunchbox heads have built-in load boxes and XLR out, so they're going direct into the Focusrite interface into the computer, and that's it. As I said, everything's hooked up to the reload, so it's super easy to reamp on the fly, as well as if I want to swap amps, blend them, or whatever. It's a shitload of cables, but that's how you record big PP tube amps without getting kicked out of your home. So that's all great and very useful, but the coolest thing about the new Tone Mountain, it fucking glows. So when I was building it, I was like, okay, how do I high integrify the crap out of this? Turns out Sweetwater, who helped me build the entire new studio, also stock stage lighting, and so the only logical thing to do was to get some of that. So these have 3 sections of RGB each. They're Bluetooth controllable, and they let me cosplay as a Wish.com rock star at home for the demo tracks. Entirely unnecessary, but god damn is it fun to film the demo tracks now. Let's be real, if you have the opportunity to get some gig lighting for your home office, you take it. So that is an absolutely unreal setup, completely overkill. Only way I can kind of justify it is making guitar demos, and talking about cool guitar stuff is literally my job. Speaking of overkill though, let's get to that guitar collection. Now, this is a ridiculous guitar collection. Never when I started this YouTube thing did I think it'd get this insane. No man needs this many guitars. Now, bear in mind, YouTube is my job, and this didn't just come overnight. It's years worth of collecting and deal hunting and building relationships with brands. So all that said, let's get into it. Let's start with my favorites, the single cuts. There are a lot of single cuts in the collection right now. I have them arranged so the LP custom style guitars are to the right of my desk. First one is a 2010 ESP Standard Eclipse 2 USA. The USA in the name sometimes confuses people. It's not an ESP USA. That's a completely different brand that was launched in 2014. The USA here is because this one was built for the US market with different enough specs from a Gibson Les Paul to prevent, well, you know, Gibson things. Nowadays, ESP Standard as a brand is no more. These things are still made in the same ESP factory in Japan, but being sold as E2 Eclipses, and man, I love this thing. This was the first really high-end guitar that I got, and it blew my mind. Before this guitar, I never understood why anyone would spend more than, well, at the time, $600 got you a high-end Epiphone. Picked this up, and the thing basically played itself, and it was like, oh, okay, well that's why. And it is still probably the best playing guitar in my entire collection. Keeping it in the ESP family of brands, 2006 Edwards ELP 112 CE. Here's the deal with Edwards. Quality-wise, they're comparable to LTD, but officially only distributed in Japan, so they can use the proper Les Paul shape. This is essentially an unofficial James Hetfield signature based on a Les Paul custom he had refinished and played a ton during the Saint Anger era. This was a white whale guitar for a long time. The dark purple satin color is so unique. Not many were ever made, and by the time I could afford one, they'd been long since discontinued. Eventually found one on Spanish Craigslist that, by some miracle, wasn't a scam. Getting it back from Europe was a hassle. KLM lost it immediately. It was a whole ordeal. But it's here now, and the previous owner was also a Hetfield fan because it was pre-modded with locking Spurzle tuners, as well as these ridiculously oversized fender strap locks to protect it. Seriously, what the fuck are these things? And I've since replaced the stock EMG 81s with Matt Hafey's Fishman Fluent set. Definitely overpaid for this, and it's weird Lord of the Rings style headstock logo text. But as I said, it was a white whale guitar that took me about a decade to track down. I had to get it. And seeing how much they go for now, maybe I didn't overpay after all. Now this next one though, this is the best traditional style Les Paul I've ever played. It's a 2006 Navigator NLP CTM. Same split diamond-ish headstock logo as the Edwards, and that's because it's essentially the higher end counterpart. Again, only distributed in Japan, but these are made at ESP's custom shop. It has the fret nib binding and everything. And it's got a huge neck, nitro finish, so all this yellowing is natural with age. And I mean, it just feels so inspiring. From the moment I picked it up, this guitar made me go, okay, that's it. I'm never buying another new Gibson. But more on that later. This is a Maybach Lester Edelweiss made in the Czech Republic, same style as the Navigator aged white Les Paul Custom. This one though, it's been hand aged from the factory and has all the artificial checking, get it, because Czech Republic. Amber Spirit of 59 humbuckers. It's been plecked because it's the same parent company. Aged Goto tuners and hardware. It's a really light Les Paul too. My box says all the guitars weigh less than 9 pounds. The case is crazy ornate and it's sick. It's basically a high-end Les Paul Custom for the same price that Gibson sells a Les Paul Standard. Then, these are so cool, twin restomodded Norlin Les Paul Customs. The first is a 72 Gibson, got the husk off of eBay, and it was actually pretty inexpensive at the time. Everyone was still shitting on Norlins. Plus, it had no original parts, a ton of extra tuner holes in the headstock, and a previous owner decided, you know what, fuck it, this guitar is not heavy enough already, let's put a big brass block under the bridge. It doesn't look great, but I'm kind of glad they did though. It's drilled for metric, so that always throws people off, but no, it's not a fake, it's just a Gibson that's had a really tough life. It's got the Norlin pancake body that's starting to show on the side, as they tend to do with age, a volute, really thin neck, made in Kalamazoo. You can tell by the larger side dots, just learned that one from a Trogley video. It was my first foray into really modding guitars since it came with no parts, so I put a Goto bridge and tailpiece, Spurzle locking tuners, and an EMG 81X 60X set in it. Now it's got the Will Adler Fluences in it, one of my top 2 favorite pickup sets of all time. And last year, it got a brass nut and jumbo stainless steel fret upgrade. Made my luthier keep the fret nibs for that job, and he was not so happy with that request, but it came out so well. 70s Gibsons are just my favorite because the neck profile is basically identical to ESP's Thin U, and the customs have these massive headstocks. And this particular one, the yellowing and aging it's just beautiful. And then a 74 Gibson that's had an even harder life. Also bought as a husk, this time from Reverb, and I legitimately have no idea how it got this fucked up. Everything from the pots that had caved in, to the fingerboard that had been re-radiused to a compound 9.5 inches to about 11-ish, to the pickup cavities that have been completely carved out into 2 little hot tub routes and had to be completely rebuilt. But we got there in the end, and it's a complete Restamont build. Jumbo stainless steel frets with rounded ball ends, Tone Pros bridge and tailpiece Kluson tuners, all aged myself with white vinegar to match the aesthetic, and bare knuckle Ragnarok humbuckers, my other favorite pickup set. Both pickups are splittable, and it's even wired so the neck is split by default in the down position. Again, volute, the pancake body, the super thin neck. I love these guitars. Also made in Kalamazoo, I'm pretty sure, since it had bridge routes for an ABR, which Nashville never did. Listen, contrary to the popular narrative, Gibson actually made some pretty great guitars in the Norlin era, and they make for some really good mod projects. Although people have since caught on, and now they're stupid expensive. Thanks in part to this man, Adam Jones, and his line of 1979 signatures. The dude is basically trademarked a year at this point. This is the newest Gibson Les Paul in the collection, his signature USA Standard. Aged Silverburst Standard with an ebony board. I mean, it's just objectively sick. That's not a subjective opinion at all. It just is. I don't make the rules. Custom artwork on the back of the headstock, volute, thin rounded profile. Said I was done with new Gibsons until this was revealed, and it was like, you son of a bitch, I'm back in the game. Other side of the desk, kind of Les Paul standard style guitars, or at least single cuts with rosewood fingerboards. Gibson lawyers don't get any ideas. Starting with one of my dream guitars, a PRS Tremonti 10 top in faded whale blue. Holy shit. Ever since I saw this at my first NAMM, I was like, I need one. That is gorgeous. So I bought this as a celebration for the channel hitting 100,000 subscribers last year, and legitimately, none of the photos or B-roll that I can take of this thing do it justice. Opted for the 10 top version because, again, celebration, so the top is insanely flamed. It's got gold accents to the hardware, and it's just an absolute work of art that plays just as good as it looks. Expensive, but absolutely no regrets. Look at the inlays and the open gear tuners, and I just love this guitar, man. And you guys have seen it in amp demos and other videos and keep asking where the demo is. So here's the deal. It's been my goal since I got this to get Mark Tremonti in the video for it. I know it's possible. I'm gonna will it into existence. But yeah, please, if anyone knows how to get in contact with Mark Tremonti, that would be epic. Thank you. Eastman SB59V, for the longest time, this was the best guitar in the collection. And there have been a bunch of real nice added since, but this is still a very special instrument. It's kind of 59 inspired, but it's got a unique spin on things. Ebony board with some of the best frets I've ever come across at any price point. Relics go to hardware, and Eastman started as a violin maker, so they've used violin varnish to finish it, and it feels so nice and played in. It feels like playing an antique heirloom cello if it were a guitar. Legitimately super high-end custom shop level, and it's got this soft V neck shape instead of a 50s rounded profile, so it's kind of a 59 style instrument, but also not really. It's its own thing, and I love that. It feels very different to this next one that is authentically 50s Gibson. Well, except it wasn't built in the 50s. Gibson /4 Les Paul standard. Big 50s profile. Gibson custom humbuckers. The Les Paul standards are based on the Appetite of Destruction Les Paul that was a clone of an actual 59, so it's a clone of a clone. So authentic. This is one of 250 limited release in celebration of his new album with Miles Kennedy and the Conspirators. Came with a ridiculous amount of case candy, including a vinyl release of the album and a signed poster. But yeah, feel and playability wise, it's basically a 50s Les Paul standard, so it ticks that box in the collection. And then going even more authentic, sort of, a Heritage H150 standard in Dirty Lemon Burst. When Gibson moved to Nashville, some of the employees didn't want to relocate and instead bought the Parsons facility and continued to craft guitars in Kalamazoo, where they're still made today. Kind of crazy, this guitar was made in the same place as the Norland Les Paul Customs were, about 50 years apart. Very much in the same vein as the last one, but warmer sounding. Could be down to the pickups, and just a super well-made guitar. Dirty Lemon Burst is also a dope color for a standard. Kind of funny, I was never interested in these kinds of dad-colored dad guitars before. It was all about the black and white customs, but since Frida was born, I've been playing the crap out of these. Onto something a little different, a Jupiter from the newly revived Harmony guitars. The Harmony brand technically predates the Power Grid, but they didn't always make, well, good guitars. They made a lot of them though, but they've since been brought back by the same people that own Heritage as a reasonably priced USA brand, and now they even make their guitars in the same building as Heritage. Really interesting blend of modern and super vintage. The gold foil pickups are Alnico 3 powered instead of using basically fridge magnets like they used to back in the day, and they're even locking tuners on this thing. Wasn't sure I was gonna like this one as a modern metal player, but it ended up being an instant keeper. Keeping with the theme of vintage style flat top single cuts, one of the most ridiculous guitars ever, my first ever Gretsch. It's got an absurd 30-inch baritone scale length and a freaking big speed tremolo. This thing is stupidly fun. Right now I have it in drop G, but with the right strings you could easily get this to drop E or beyond. To be honest, the pickups aren't too chug friendly. They're super low output and kind of muddy, so I'm looking for a metal replacement. But the rest of the guitar is so enjoyable, it's pure insanity. And here's the newest Les Paul to grace the studio floor, Epiphone Matt Hafey Origins Les Paul Custom. It's very similar to the Prophecy modern neck heel Fishman Fluences, but it's got a speed taper D profile. That's the thinnest neck Epiphone puts on any of their guitars. And instead of satin, it's gloss like a traditional Les Paul, so spec-wise, very similar. Sound-wise, also very similar, but in terms of feel, pretty different. Still getting used to such a thin neck on this massive body, especially after coming from the Slash and the Heritage, but a Les Paul Custom with Fluences? That's pretty much everything I look for a guitar right there. Over to the wall rack you see behind me on most of the videos, a bunch of prototypes for my signature Harley Benton. This is the very first one. We got really ambitious with Fish Influences and Tone Pros hardware, which is really cool, but also ended up being way too expensive. The goal was to make sure it had great specs, but was also affordable, and this just wasn't that, and the neck joint on this thing fucking sucked too. So we came up with this. It's the final production prototype for the first run. We fixed the neck joint, kept the roasted maple neck, ebony fingerboards, stainless steel frets, lumen lays, brushed chrome hardware, Grover locking tuners instead of hip shot, and a custom voiced Roswell Seraphim set that's absolutely incredible. And we were able to get this thing out for 499 euros. Amazing. Only 350 of these were ever made, and funnily enough, they sold out before I was able to get one from the actual production run, but I'm really happy so many people were able to get their hands on one before they were discontinued. Every time someone posts how they're using one to create music, it's so surreal. I'm just so happy they're out there and being used to create art that's being put out into the world. And while they are not coming back in that configuration, at least V2 is entering the production phase finally. These next four are all prototypes where we were trying new things out. This one is basically the same, but in red. And these three satin pastels are an attempt to make a more affordable solid top version. We tried out Daphne Blue, we tried out Shell Pink, and we tried out Seafoam Green. Keeps most of the same specs, but now both pickups are individually coil splittable, and no binding on the fingerboard in favor of highly rolled fingerboard edges. Really small touches, but they make a huge difference for versatility, and the V2s are so comfortable to play. I love all these colors. It's hard not to be biased here. And from the comments, it seems like you guys have been really digging the Seafoam Green version in particular, but yeah, let me know which color you like best. And some of you despise all these colors, so there may or may not be a matte black version on the way as well. Moving on, before I get in trouble with Toman again for talking about things that I'm probably not supposed to be talking about yet. Then everyone thought this was another signature prototype. It's not. It's actually my first ever kit project build. This is a kit from Precision Guitars. The specs are pretty nuts. It's like an all Carina build with an ebony board and stainless steel frets. It was a ton of fun figuring out the best ways to put together a kit build using DIY methods in a city apartment. So stuff like putting on the logos for my signature by putting them on water slide decals, staining and finishing the wood using water-based dye, and tung oil on the balcony, things like that. And I even got the control cavity covers signed by Blackstone Cherry when they came through. They're one of my favorite bands, so that was awesome. Chapman ML2 Pro Modern neck through single cut, which is dope as hell. And I'm convinced this is the best top Chapman have ever put on any of their guitars. And it's a proper flame maple cap. Look at that natural binding, man. And this guitar introduced me to the concept of rolled fingerboard edges, to stainless steel frets, and to hip shot, all of which were game changers. This guitar and Chapman as a whole around the 2017-2018 era raised the bar for import guitars. Only mod I've done is install the Killswitch Engage signature Fishman Fluences, which are pretty much the original spec moderns that are different to the ones that you can buy today, and they've added a single coil voice to them. Then the Solar single cut, an OG meme of the channel. When this dropped, the comment section got absolutely destroyed. And it's a completely metal take on the single cut theme. Even the color name, Blood Red. This was the first version that was ever available, and again, only thing I've really done is put Fishman Influences in it, Keith Merrow's signature set. And so this is kind of like a tribute to the OG metal guitar YouTubers. A lot of OG going on with this guitar. And that pretty much does it for the wall and racks of single cuts for now. Oh wait, actually no, working on a video of this right now. It's a Slick SL52, crazy sandblasted ash body and hand-aged brass hardware for $289. How? Video of that coming soon because it's insane. It takes a completely different route to any other budget guitars out there. Last guitar on the wall rack though, Harley Benton EX84 in, well, they called it Shell Pink. It's not really though, is it? Pretty sure this color has since been dropped, but an EMG equipped guitar with an ebony board and jumbo frets for 350 bucks? Wild. Moving on to the other rack above the IKEA workbench on the other side of the room. This is the, I don't really know what the theme of this one is. Bolt-ons, kind of. Squire Hello Kitty that's been given the high integrity treatment, loaded with Fishman Fluence, hipshot open gear locking tuners, and a freaking Evertune, because why not? I got this off of Craigslist for $100 a couple of Thanksgivings ago. Bought it in Queens, took it on the subway through the airport, didn't have a case or gig bag or anything. No one said a thing, which tells you a lot about New York City. Everyone was like, yep, this is completely normal. It was only back in Atlanta, deplaning, the captain was like, nice. And then at baggage claim, a random dude offered to buy it off of me. But I was like, nah, I had plans for this. And dude, no joke, this gets a ridiculous amount of playing time. It's so reliable. Unlike this one, which sucks. There's a seller on AliExpress that makes 7-string Hello Kitty knockoffs. And I was like, well, that's hilarious. I have to get one for the channel. Good God. It's awful. Fretwork sucks, bridge was in the wrong place so it could never intonate properly, and the pick guard is hand painted, which kudos to the effort someone actually put into it, but also it's so derpy and looks awful up close. Put an Evertune and Black Winner in there, as well as Hipshot tuners and a Graphtec nut, so it's always in tune and the tone is awesome, but the neck is super bowed and the truss rod doesn't work at all, so yeah, it needs a new neck and just overall fuck this guitar. Fender Noventa Strat. This thing is sick. Noventa means 90, and it's the only P90 guitar I have right now. It's kind of like if Fender made a Les Paul special. Modders have been doing this thing forever. The combo of P90s and the longer 25.5-inch scale length sounds super mean. And finally, Fender decided they just make a production version. Trust me, you don't realize how awesome this combination is until you try it. Then a Fender Player Plus Meteora. Fender's newest body shape. It's kind of like a mini Jazzmaster, and it's kind of ugly. I think this shape, more than a lot of others, is really dependent on the color. Luckily, they've made a silver burst, which is awesome. It's got a 12-inch fingerboard radius and locking tuner, so it's not ultra modern, but still a little modern, combined with that classic Fender restraint. Can't wait for the Hybrid Theory model. Then my current favorite Fender, American Professional 2 Telecaster Deluxe in Dark Knight. Christian Bale intensifies. As fantastic as the Made in Mexico models have become, there's still something special about their USA models. This is absolutely one of the coolest colors Fender does, plus the giant 70s headstock. Love it. And this guitar is incredible for cleans. Like, if I'm stuck on a clean part, I'll use this for riding it. Then the only Ernie Ball Music Man right now, a Stingray RS, basically the fluff guitar. If Fender is too traditional for you, trust me, give Music Man a shot, because they're basically modernized Fenders. Stainless steel frets, Schaller locking tuners, compensated nuts, asymmetrical neck carve, roasted maple neck, and the hand-rubbed oil and wax finish on the neck feels insanely good. I was a Music Man skeptic, now because of this guitar, I am a believer. Rest of this rack isn't too exciting. Another super old signature prototype, Ibanez AZ Essentials, I still need to mod and give away, and a piece of shit burning fired glary guitar I will be trading away. More like glary steaming pile. This one is pretty cool though, 1986 Epiphone Les Paul 1. Gibson did some weird shit in the 80s to try to keep up with super strats that were in vogue at the time. And this is one of their attempts at a super Les Paul. Weird body shape. Interestingly, it has the Kalamazoo headstock they're using now. The previous owner put this really grimy Seymour Duncan Invader in there, and it has a Steinberger tremolo. And most of these that you see today are broken because there's a major design flaw with this bridge. One of the metal pieces is very weak, and just natural string tension over time causes it to break. So you'll see a lot of these where the bridge is permanently pulled forward. Weird guitar. Supposed to be doing a video with Gibson to fix it up through their repair and restoration program, but we haven't been able to coordinate that just yet. And outside the room is arguably just as cool. So the studio's on the bottom level and the stairs leading down to it. I thought it would be cool to do like an MTV Cribs-like wall display. And the camera doesn't really capture this too well, but let me tell you, walking down these stairs to the studio is like, it's super inspiring. This is Frida Sophia's guitar. It's an avocado. No more questions. This is my first real guitar. It was my main for years. 2006 Epiphone G400 Custom, made in Korea, an affordable take on the 1961 Les Paul Custom, which is why it has all the Les Paul Custom badging on it. Tutored English in China for a whole summer, got my bike stolen at work, but I saved up all the money and got this. And it was completely unsuited to the music I played, but I loved it anyways. It's got all these dings and dents and chips in it because I used to bring it back and forth between China and the US. Had a JB in the bridge for a while, while, added a Fat Cat in the middle and a 59 in the neck, both from eBay and in chrome because gold covered versions were $10 more expensive and I couldn't afford it. Now it's got a Buddha Shark Bite set based on Black Winners but with aged gold covers. 3 volume, 1 tone makes for a really interesting combination of sounds. Replaced the bridge with Godo, and just last year replaced the nut with Graphtec, which does its best, but when you use the Maestro Vibrola, all tuning stability bets are off. Yeah, man, the memories with this guitar. This is Shiv's guitar. It's another Fender Am Pro 2 Tele Deluxe. The fretwork was kind of messed up with this one, so Fender said just keep it and we'll send you another for the video. So it took a while, I fixed it up and then gave it to Shiv in hopes that having a really nice guitar, she wouldn't have to fight it and might inspire her to learn. Hasn't quite worked out so far. Turns out having a kid leaves you with very little extra time, but one day maybe. Then, oh man, do all the skate stickers give this away as a first guitar? Squire Bullet Strat, I'm sure a lot of you started out on something similar. Interestingly, Fender has no record of a Bullet Strat existing in this configuration. Black HSS with a trem maple board and a full thickness body that looks suspiciously like mahogany, but it's here. Might have been an Asia exclusive model or just a random assortment of parts they had lying around that they just slapped together and they called it a Bullet Strat. Either way, the neck is amazing, super dark and well oiled. The fretwork, I haven't had to touch it, and trust me, this guitar was not taken care of all the time. Still, no fret sprout or anything. Since replaced basically everything you can replace on a Strat. Hipshot open gear locking tuners, Tusk nut from the Nut Masters, obviously. Fender Vintage Tremolo, Buddha Hammerhead set, and we actually used this bridge pickup as the basis for the Roswell Seraphim set in my signatures. My dumbass at the time did not realize that I would need an F-spaced humbucker for this guitar, and that is why the pickguard looks like someone went all caveman on the bridge cavity. It's because someone did go all caveman on the bridge cavity. And there's even a Fishman triple play, so this guitar is a MIDI controller now too, because why not? May as well. Fender Player Tele, gotta have a white Tele in the collection, and Fender guitars are just great for modding. This one put on some strap locks, Godo locking tuners, those were a pain in the butt, and also how I learned that vintage and modern Fender tuners are different sizes. Biggest thing though, installed a 4-way switch to put the 2 pickups in series, essentially turning them into one wide-ass humbucker. It sounds super chonky, and in my opinion, there is no reason why it shouldn't be standard on every Telecaster. It adds a whole new secret dimension to the instrument. On this landing wall, oh, you thought we were done with all the single cuts. Nope. Valiant Smith, made by my friends in Ukraine. Their factory is close by to where a cruise missile hit that caused them to have to evacuate, and now they're back making guitars again, which gives us absolutely no excuses to not get our shit done. This is their take on a sleek, modern single cut, super well made, bare knuckle war pig in the bridge. Aerospace grade Duralumin hardware, Bell bronze nut slots and saddles. Crazy cool brand, crazy cool guitar. May have something to announce with them very soon. To each side, EX84 Moderns have converted into twin Metallica tribute guitars. Helped Toman spec these out, so made sure they came with ebony boards, jumbo frets, and Grover locking tuners. Mod-wise, super simple. Put Kirk Hammett's Bone Breakers into the vintage white one and James Hetfield's Het set into the black one. And then a very talented artist friend of mine hand drew artwork inspired by the Papa Het guitar and by this picture of a hangry seal snacking on a Mola Mola. She made it more of an epic battle, and because these are twin yin and yang, the seal is winning on the black one, Mola is winning on the white one. Still need to clear coat it to really preserve the artwork, but still really cool use of a couple of budget guitars. 10S 7-string GF Modern, affordable modern 7-string single cut with a burled maple top and 5-piece neck. Pretty self-explanatory. Probably the heaviest guitar here, including the Norlands, which is incredible. This, the original high integrity guitar, basically the entire reason I even have a channel. So if you hate the content, you can blame it all on this one. This started off as a pink guitar I bought for $30 brand new in China, and then dumped $600 worth of upgrades into. Fishman single width pickups, Graphtec nut, Hipshot open gear locking tuners, you seeing a theme here, Hipshot tremolo, and Fishman rechargeable battery pack. The reason it's called high integrity, by the way, if you're new around here, it originally came with a sticker on the pickguard that said Satisfaction Competitive High Integrity. I was inspired by the honesty, so we took that, made it our own, and 5 years later, here we are. Another 10S 7-string. This was a custom build they did for me a few years back before they were doing production 7-string single cuts. Really well spec'd. Wasn't a fan of the stock pickups at all though, and replaced them with Javier Rey's signature Fluent set. To be honest, they're really not made for metal, which is 99% of this channel, so it still doesn't get much playing time. Still though, love this color and love the burled maple cap. Now this is a really cool one. Custom 10S relic in shell pink. Tastefully aged, it's got a thin nitro finish, and it's pretty much the closest thing I've ever come across to an affordable vintage Gibson in terms of feel. This thing is about $500 and it legitimately feels so close to the Norlands, but with a thicker 50s neck, it's crazy. This was supposed to be a prototype for a special limited run with them, but they haven't been doing great with filling orders or with customer service. People have ordered guitars and are waiting a year to hear back from them, so yeah, that's not great. Massive shame, because this is a really fun guitar, especially now I've thrown in a set of Will Adler Fluences in there. Final 4 on the stairwell, Epiphone Slash Les Paul Standard. Again, basically a Les Paul Standard 50s with Slash's name on it. The story behind this one though, I really wanted Slash in the demo of his Gibson guest solo, interview, whatever. But his management was like, yeah, Slash is not comfortable with the internet. So they were like, yeah, can he just sign a guitar for you instead? And I was like, well, yeah, I guess that'll do. I mean, I would have done anything to get Slash in the video. Who wouldn't? He's fucking Slash. But as far as runner-up prizes go, this is a fucking good one. Let's be real, he signed so many of these things, he has no idea who this one went to, but still, super cool. I choose to believe that we're great friends now. Another signed one, Fender Jim Root Jazzmaster, with the man's signature itself on it. Wanted one of these for such a long time. It's a freaking metal Jazzmaster, dude. So when a good deal came up on it and it was signed, had to grab it. It's in pretty grimy condition. I need to clear coat the signature and clean the overall guitar up. And same deal as with the Tremonti. Anyone got to connect with Jim Root? Would die to get him on for a video. Machine Gun Kelly signature. Listen, I actually think it's a pretty cool guitar. Let's be real, it's about as pop punk as they come. But MGK is a bit of a douchebag. That's why it's in the hallway. Keith Merrow signature, absolutely stacked 7-string. I've been meaning to find room in the studio for it because it's the best 7-string I own, even though I don't play them too much. Also, one of the few guitars that looks better from the back than it does from the front. So that's it for the stairway. This was hours of measuring and remeasuring, and it man, it came out so well. Other guitars I'm working on for videos right now, Charvel Sean Long signature from While She Sleeps, bright neon yellow EMG, fuck yes. I'm not gonna lie, having a tough time nailing the While She Sleeps sound for the demo track. Slowly but surely getting there, but that's why it's taking so long. I want to make sure that it's good before I send it off to Sean Long to add his fire to it. EVH 5150 in slime green, absolutely ridiculous color, and I love how serious looking that kill switch is. Kramer 84 Illusionist, kind of same vein as the EVH. It's even got the D-tuner, but more, you know, illusion-y. And then overflow of project guitars in the garage that I need to mod and give away. It's just so hard to start big projects like these right now. Like, I'll wake up bright and early in the morning with the intention of starting a big video. Next thing you know, it's 8 p.m., I'm exhausted, and the entire day has been bottles and diapers. Like, god damn it, dude. Worth. God damn it. I know, I owe you some mod videos. Bear with me. And the garage is where the cases are too, because they take up a lot of space. Another cheap guitar I'm modding and giving away, Indio OS 20 offset affordable HSS Jazzmaster. I'll be real with you, I have no parts for this right now, so that is very much a work in progress. Lastly, acoustics. Don't play acoustics too much. Martin D12X1AE, Ibanez would be proud of that one. Bought this off a good friend when he went back to India after college. Love putting this in the Tremonti open tuning DADADD, and 12 strings sound great, man, when they're in tune. It's been repaired, it cracked right down the middle of the body, and to this day, I cannot figure out whether it's out of tune because it's separating again, or because it's a 12 string, and that's just what they do. My 6 string is a 2008 Martin SWDGT. It was part of their sustainable wood series, so the entire guitar is made of cherry, and it sounds crazy warm. First time I played it, oh man, it just put this huge grin on my face. That never happened with any acoustic before, or with any acoustic since. And I really couldn't afford it, but it was in the used section of Guitar Center for a great price, basically brand new. I used my Asian bartering skills to get the price down even more, put down the minimum deposit to reserve it, proceeded to sell everything I could that wasn't bolted down, and walked away with my perfect acoustic. Literally no desire to get any others. And last acoustic, this one's not mine, it's Frida's. It was a very generous welcome to the world gift from PRS, and it's a parlor guitar, so it'll be a good size when she gains the hand-eye coordination to play Wonderwall. And I think that is it, for here at least. If you're wondering what happened to the 65 Melody Maker, the 78 The Paul, Squire Bullet P-Bass, they are all at Wendell's and they're undergoing extensive surgery you'll hear more about in the coming weeks, months, in the coming times. Yeah, we'll go with that. So that is the 2022 gear collection video. It's gotten a bit excessive, I'm not gonna lie. As I said, stay tuned to my reverb because I will be letting stuff go. You can also subscribe, turn on notifications that way you don't miss any new uploads from me. I am on a mission to mod guitars and give them away, so you know, if that interests you. And thank you to all my wonderful patrons for supporting the channel. We would not be able to do any of this without you. Video editors are not cheap. If you want to join them in supporting the content, help me get the videos up quicker and upgrade everything to a crispy 4K for even better content for you guys. The link will be in the description. Social media, Discord, affiliate, and reverb links are down below. As always, thank you so much for watching. You've been awesome, and I will see you for the next video. And I pray the next one will not be 45 minutes because that was a ton of work.